So we're going to talk about managing importance versus urgency. And I'm going to jump right into that. But the key thing is priorities drive our lives. And I want to be really honest about this. I suck at this, okay? If I were really good at only working on what was important and not getting sucked into what's urgent, and I'll define those terms in a second, I would be much more successful and much more relaxed all at the same time. So this is a show where we're going to be deeply honest with each other. So look, let me flip over. We'll see if I have this right on this. Yeah, there it is. So this diagram is what was on my blog. And if you don't follow the blog, you can always know what I'm going to talk about by going there first. So blog advertisement, follow our blog at www.theeasycoach.com. And you'll always know what topic is coming. You'll get notified in advance of any schedule changes. But this basic matrix is borrowed from a guy named Stephen Covey, who was author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and is an impressive author. He came up with this matrix. He may have borrowed it from somewhere else, but he popularized it. And I was taught this matrix by my first boss over 20 years ago. And what I want to say about it is, if you can get this right, your life is a lot easier. So we'll go over during this show all the small words in this matrix. But the basic thing you have to realize is there's two axes of work: what's urgent and what's important. And urgency is how much pressure is on you to do it now. And that can be internal pressure you feel, that can be external pressure someone is giving you. But that pressure is not the same as what's truly important. And so on this version, if you Google urgent versus important, you'll see thousands of different representations of this same diagram. I picked this one because I liked how it broke things out. And its point is, you want to work on the stuff in green at the top that's most important, and not as much on urgency unless it's also important. So the obvious quadrant everyone gets right is if something is truly important and it's urgent, they work on it. So in this case, for example, it talks about bullets on your resume. Something that's going to become an accomplishment you put on your resume, whether it's your college degree or hitting your sales quota at your job or whatever. Those are what they call deep work. You obviously do those things. Then there's the things that aren't as urgent but are more important. And what happens is most people fail, and instead of going to the left on this diagram to things that are important but less urgent, they get sucked into going down into what it calls procrastination and says you should limit. And those things are all fun, by the way. Taking breaks is fun, goofing off, wasting time, passing time, surfing the internet. Those are all fun. Sorry, I have this wrong. It's my mistake. This diagram flipped least urgent and most urgent. Most urgent is on the left. You want to avoid the stuff in the bottom right, but most people get sucked down from most important, most urgent. They get sucked down into quick fix or delegate, the corner that is highly urgent but not that important. Will this be later to be able to be viewed? Yes, it will be both available as a VOD and both here and on our YouTube channel. And it will also be available, it's on my blog right now. You can find the diagram there. You can read a few things I said about it. So it's totally available in lots of places. Okay, so people get sucked from the upper left corner, the most important, most urgent, down into the least important, most urgent. And this is what you really want to avoid. And it says here the ways to avoid them are fix it quickly or delegate. And delegate can also mean don't do it. So these are interruptions, distractions, pointless meetings. Now I wish I could do a show of hands easily. If I were teaching in a classroom, I would absolutely have people raise hands about how many people feel a lot of their meetings are pointless. Similarly, email. And if you prefer here, you can talk about Slack. This is older. You can talk about Slack. You can talk about texts. You can talk about chat messages. You can talk about all of this. Thank you, Zelkova204. Clearly, you're clapping about how many pointless meetings you're in. And I see a lot of them even at Amazon, where theoretically I control most of my meeting schedule. We still have pointless meetings some of the time. Hey, Hephaestus. Hephaestus runs his own company, and he has pointless meetings, apparently. So that tells you right there, they're hard to avoid. I will talk for a minute about email. One of the places where I said I get sucked into this is I'm what in gaming they call a completionist. I like to complete every quest. I like to explore every corner of the map. I like to do every possible alternative path through a game. Well, what that means when it comes to corporate work is in email, I get sucked into trying to get to inbox 0. Now, I have finally given up on that, but only because of total failure. One of my kids got a hold of my phone recently, and I'll pull it up because it's fun. My inbox right now says I have 34,784 unread messages. Most of those are on personal accounts. But there are hundreds of them unread on work accounts. And my work inbox, I have my assistant go delete what's in it every few months at the bottom. But it's probably got 6,000 to 10,000 messages in it I didn't get to. That drives me crazy. But the point is, all of those messages are demanding my time, and I'm not actually working on them because they're not urgent. And so... I'm sorry, they're not important, but I feel an urgency, like, oh, I should get back to that person. It's rude if I don't. Well, the point is, whatever your equivalent of email is, you have to get good at fighting it. And we all have that thing that sucks us in. So, 4 quadrants, we've talked about it a little bit. We're going to talk about how to prioritize successfully. Zelkova, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Always appreciated. Most people here know, of course, that I founded and run Twitch Prime along with my team. And so I love Twitch Prime subs. And if you have questions, by the way, now is a good time to start asking them, because we'll get to viewer questions after 1 or 2 more stories of how I struggle with this stuff. Because I want to share that you can be successful while not being very good at this. It just takes up a lot of your time. Thank you. Is the Twitch Prime ironic here? Yes, it is. But it's kind of thing on our channel as a result. Okay. So start putting in your questions. I'll get to those in a minute. In the meantime, what else would I say about this? So you want to stay in the upper part of this diagram. You do the essential work and life stuff first. You then move to the deep work. And that's where you're supposed to be getting the value. In other words, if you did those things that are labeled there, rather than getting sucked into email, maintenance, interruptions, and distractions. I loved a book I found. I don't have it with me. It's packed up somewhere. It was a little like book of sayings. And the book of sayings, and it's from long before modern internet, when it was old culture. One of the titles in it, or one of the things it said is never confuse a memo with reality. But another thing it said was avoid meetings with time-wasting morons. And our lives, unfortunately, are full of time-wasting morons. All of us know them. We don't need to be mean. Moron is a mean word. But we all have people who are time vampires, if you prefer. Duke of Thoughts says every meeting. Maybe. I don't think every meeting is awful. Yeah, Leet Hephaestus says correctly, though, it's amazing how successful I can be despite doing so little sometimes. If you do the right things, you don't necessarily have to do a lot of things. And that comes from staying, after you handle the minimum in the upper left quadrant of this diagram, doing the stuff in the upper right quadrant. Because if you think about it, after you do your health upkeep, exercise, eating, sleeping, etc., if you're preparing and planning, you're educating yourself and doing lifelong learning, you're focusing on the value added projects, and then you're keeping your relationships strong, you're focusing on things that make long term joyful memories and living your values, you'll probably succeed. If you get sucked into a lot of email, low value, busy work, maintenance, etc., you won't. So I'm going to switch off of this for a little bit. I'll come back to it later. Tell a couple stories of how I've done this well and poorly. So one story I want to tell, I ran the Amazon App Store for a while. Wow, that mic's up high. I ran the Amazon App Store for a while. And one of the things we had to do is make sure that the apps we put up were not stolen. So they hadn't been downloaded from somebody else and re-uploaded as your own. And I think I need to fix screen chat here too. What we had to do was we had a lot of manual work to check every app to make sure it wasn't porn, it wasn't spam, it wasn't stolen. Well, to scale that, we needed a lot of people to do it because you can't automate it all. And so my boss actually said, hey, you need to open an offshore office, someplace where you can do, you can get work done cheaply. And I had never done this. I was afraid to do it. I didn't want to do it because it meant traveling internationally for work and trying to run an office 8, 10, 12 time zones away. And I wasn't sure I knew how to do that. Turns out it's not that hard. But I didn't know, so I was worried. The key is, he told me, well, you've got all year, but I expect you to do it. And so it became important. It was something I had to do. And he was right. We eventually ended up with 300 people in that office. They thought they had astounding jobs. And I can back that up in a second, because when I tell you what they made, you'll think, no, those are shitty jobs. So we hired 300 people in that office. We paid them $8,000 a year. And you're like, not too good. But it was Bangalore, India. And why was that a good job? Like, why am I not saying, oh, we were just paying people somewhere else poorly? Well, when we had openings for 2 spots in that office once, the manager of the office said, hey, he told his team, he said, hey, if you know anybody we should hire, tell them to come by Monday and we'll consider hiring them. Just put the word out, through your friends or whatever. Well, the next day, I think it wasn't a Monday, it was like midweek, I was in India visiting the office, and I came by, and the entire lawn of our building had so many people. Yeah, Asset says 50 people showed up. It was more like 500. And so we actually had a crowd control problem where we had to drain HR out of the building to go down and talk to people and collect resumes, just so that people didn't get mad like this was false advertising. Yeah, holy crap is exactly right. So the point is, those jobs are super desirable. But the equivalent job in Seattle probably would have cost us 6 to 10 times as much, certainly 6 times as much. And so we were getting like a 6 to 1 ratio. And yeah, Duke of Thought here says, I read an article where 1 million people applied to 500 railroad positions. I completely believe that. Black Belt Man 3D, welcome. Thank you for following. If you are lurking out there, we appreciate follows. And we're going to roll to questions shortly. So if you haven't used our extension and started asking questions, you should. Coming back to urgent versus important, though, the key point here is, had my boss not made that a goal I had to focus on, and had I not done that focused long-term work, we would have scaled poorly in the US. I'd have had to try to figure out where to fit 300 people, and I'd have had real trouble getting people to come into that job. People are asking questions, by the way, in chat. We do those all in our extension. So the instructions have come up in chat a couple times. Please go answer them using the extension. You can mouse over it on screen. and open it up there. At least one person has a question in, which I'm happy to see. We'll address that soon. Once questions show up in the extension, you can all vote on them to make sure I answer what you want to know. But if you just ask them in chat, they don't get answered usually, and the mods will sometimes move them for you and sometimes not. So please move them over yourselves. All right. So opening Bangalore was a huge success for my team, and I learned a lot in it, but only because I was forced. And you can do better. If I had seen that myself, I could have been smarter about it. But that's a case of like where doing one important thing was way more valuable than all the stuff I'd have done. What other story do I want to tell here? Just so you know, I already told you I'm terrible about being sucked into inbox zero. All right, I got one more story to buy you time to ask questions. And then we'll roll to viewer questions. And without questions, all right. Let's see. The other story I want to tell is I'm talking about prioritizing. We talked about urgent versus important, but this is all a question about priorities in your work. How do you set priorities? How do you know what to do? Further, how do you get rid of the junk? And one of the questions, the first question right now, sitting waiting votes, is about how to say no to pointless things. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. If you work in an office or go to school, your day is always full. Yet, here's a magical thing. When you get sick and don't go to work or can't go to work, the world goes on. And so suddenly that 8 or 9 hours of classes or 8 or 9 hours of meetings you absolutely had to go to, somehow everything gets handled. And so what I would share, thank you for the follow there. What I would share is you don't have to, it turns out most of what you're doing can be pushed off at least one day. Not everything, not every day. But if you think about if you were going to be sick tomorrow, what things on your schedule would you actually call in for or try and get notes about them? What would you actually do? And so most of it, you would just stay home and rest and you'd catch up later. Well, that right there tells you that most of that stuff could wait. If you want a more dramatic example, a story I like to tell because it's fun and it's old now and I can share it. Years ago at Amazon, one of my partner teams, like a team adjacent to me, worked for another guy. Their service went down and they had a live operation service. And basically, one of their software devs made an error and he deleted about 4 billion rows of data from a database. Might have been even more. It was a lot, probably more than 4 billion. But it was at least 4 billion. I remember that number. So he screwed up and wiped their database. Not a good call. But they didn't know how they found out they spent a day trying to recover their backups. And like kind of most of the world, they had never tested their backup and restore procedure, which is a no-no. So failure on them. Turns out they couldn't get their restore to work. So now all the data is gone. And yeah, press Control Z. That would be awesome. All their data is gone, but they can't recover it either. They can't restore. And their service is down. And there are external customers depending on it. This is where they call me in because the guy who owns the team is away at a conference launching Fire TV. For those of you who know Amazon Fire TV, it was when Fire TV first came out. And the guy who ran the group was away. And so he called me and said, look, the team has this thing down. It's been down a day. They've lost all the data. Go help them. Well, the clarifying thing here is at Amazon, when a service is down, if you think of Amazon Web Services, and when something's down, it trumps all other priorities. So suddenly I could wipe out days of my schedule because I had a new most important thing. The point I'm getting at here is to set priorities. It's about understanding what's truly important and then being willing to act on it. You can probably find it quickly, but Steve Jobs, I believe, is famous for saying whatever, basically, that what you say no to is as important as what you say yes to. So those are the stories. I see some people have voted on questions. That's awesome. We have a big audience here. We're ready for questions. Mods, pin the first question and let's talk about it. And that question is, given no data or the lack of good data, how do you determine priorities where everyone group thinks their priority is number one? Yeah, so this is a great question. Given the lack of good data, that's where judgment comes in. So if you truly had no data, then you have to use judgment. It's okay to think. This is something like we've lost in the workplace. It's okay to actually think, and it's okay to make a decision. And that can lead to argument. I get people are going to piss and moan and argue back and forth, but you get to control your life. And if you need to make a case for the top priority, that's fine. You can also negotiate and say, well, we're going to round robin this, or we're going to time box the priority. There also should be someone who is a decision maker, and you can simply ask, what is the top priority? I see the question in chat, by the way, is anyone a finance major? I don't know if that's related or not, but money is a great way to prioritize. Which of these things is going to make our business the most money? The bottom line, though, stepping back, is you need to know what's important to your business. At Amazon, we use something called tenants to do this, where we have a set of tenants for a property, which is different than tenants. I'm not talking about people living in a property, but we have a set of tenants about what we're doing, say Twitch Prime, about what is most important in Twitch Prime. So for example, something, hopefully, I saw a lot of you are Prime members and use Twitch Prime, I hope. One of our tenets is actually what we call Don't Suck Plus Plus. And what the hell does that mean? It means in gaming, it's really easy to fall into being corporate stooges as opposed to fitting the gaming culture. So actually, one of our top decisions is this thing we're about to do, is it actually good for customers, or is it corporate stoogism? And we may not always get that right. Oh, hey, Asset, thank you for the sub. Very much appreciate that. Welcome to the team. All right, so what we do is we think through this list of key guiding principles, and we use those to set our priority. So in answering this question, you have to know what's important to your business, and you have to try to see if you can get agreement on the important things to the business and to your team, so that then you can bounce priorities up against it. And that's really the only way to resolve it if you don't have data, is you have to have some sort of guiding principle instead. So I think I've answered that question. I appreciate it. I like the fact that you, that the big audience we have here, a few of you have gone and voted on questions. I remind everyone who's watching, and this will be the last time I nag about it, if you don't vote on the questions, you get random answers. Versus if one or two of you go in and vote on the questions you want me to answer, you get to choose what I talk about. This is the one place in the show where you have choice, and so you might want to exercise it, because everything else depends on what I want to say. All right. Callus C, finally here after seeing you a lot with Devin. Thank you. Welcome. I hope you enjoy it. All right. So the next question is, this refers back to opening the Bangalore office. Was it because the name of Amazon they were interested in, or were you just paying much higher than the average market? I don't know everything about Bangalore economics, but here's what I know. We were asking people to come in and spend their day holding a mobile phone and downloading one random, usually poor app after another onto it, and tell us if it was stolen, like it was obviously Disney or Mickey Mouse or Coca-Cola, and if it was porn and if it worked. Not a very exciting job. Yet everyone who came and applied had a college degree. They usually only had like a 2-year associate's degree, but what that told me was that there was a huge vacuum in employment, and the chance to get into a good company that would pay well and be stable and had benefits was incredibly compelling to them. So I think that's an Indian market problem if you're not in a tech field. If you're a software engineer in India, there's incredible demand for your services. If you're maybe in a few other fields I don't know about, there's incredible demand. But the rest of the time, there's incredible supply of people. I'm sure the audience and chat has some set of people from India in it who can add to what I'm saying, and some other set of people who've worked in India or been to India. But as one of my friends who ran that office, the guy who founded the office for me and ran it in Bangalore, explained to me, in India, anything that depends on people is really easy to get done because buying human labor is cheap. And anything that depends on an unlimited quantity, on a limited quantity, like real estate or time or cars, those are really expensive because they're limited. I have not conducted business in Spain. So here's a fun story I love to tell just about India, which is one of the guys who worked in the office. Should take a step back. So my key employees were all software engineers because we had a software team there as well, or they were management. And so they made less than you would make in the US for the same jobs, but not a lot less. And so it was way, way more than the average in India, many, many times. That's one of the reasons a lot of the people working there were people who had worked in the US and who went home to India because they could get paid, say, 2/3 as much in a country where the average cost was 1/10 as much. So all of those people had some sort of personal servants in their homes. And the reason they had personal servants was both because, hey, if you can afford it, sounds pretty good, but also because if you didn't hire unemployed local people to help in your house and you had money, society there viewed you as kind of a jerk because you could employ someone. So this one guy, he was in the sales team, not part of my org, but in another part. He once explained to me, he said, Ethan, I think he said 7 people working in my household. And I'm like, 7 people? What could that be for? Well, he tried to list them, and we'll see if I get to 6 or 7. I can't remember now. He said, I have a maid, I have a nanny, I have a cook, I have a dishwasher, I have a laundry boy, I have a driver. That's 6. I have a driver for my wife. And he said, I know there's a 7th. What is it? Oh, right. I have a bookkeeper to pay the other 6. So that was his collection of household servants. Now, the part about this, that if you haven't been to India or you haven't been other places in the third world where there's a lot of unemployed people, that will blow your mind is, first, if any of you have ever seen a maid service in the US or had maid service in your house or your dorm or your frat house or whatever, they come once a week. Maybe once every other week to quickly clean the toilets and whatever, the kitchen. And they're there an hour. In India, the maids I saw came once in the morning and again in the afternoon every day. So very different level of service. And the cook would come and make lunch and make dinner and set up breakfast for the next day. And Dr. Jabri says the servants live with them, which is also often true. This was not the case with the people I saw in Bangalore, but it's a full-time job or can be. Well, coming back to this guy who had these 7 servants, what do you think he paid to have a maid who comes twice a day, a driver for his wife? I'm talking all together now. maid, driver, cook, nanny, dishwasher, uh, laundry boy, bookkeeper, whatever else I didn't mention, the 7 I mentioned earlier. 2K a month, Lee to Festus. High. Try again. Someone from 2,000 bucks a month. Nope. He was paying 300 a month. He was paying 300 bucks a month for the basically. I think the laundry boy was included with his apartment, but he's paying 300 bucks a month. Yeah, Chalupa Whale has it right at less than 1K. So you can see where if you can hire 6 servants for 300 a month, us paying people 8K to test apps was a godsend of a job. Because as it was explained to me, a maid would make a living. She'd get 50 bucks a month for going to a house and cleaning it twice a day. And she could clean maybe 4 houses a day that way. So maybe her monthly income was about 200. So anyway, I've beaten this to death, this question, but I thought it was fair to answer. And I know you're all interested in the broader world, not just our topic at hand. And it's fun to share about that culture because I always found this pretty shocking. Shaquille Oatmeal, welcome in. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Applied Sciences Polymath, same with you. It's wonderful to see you. Yeah, the 4 billion records, I didn't finish that story. I told you what happened and how I wiped out my calendar. The best part about that story, the 4 billion lost database records, the service had been live like 2 years. Oh, Black Belt Man 3D, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Welcome to our team. Bojacken, good to see you here. Love the perspective not many people know about. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to travel to a place like India or Africa, some of the Middle East, there's a lot of regions. It's well worth taking that trip just to understand the rest of the world and how it works. Our maid is paid $600 a month plus all living expenses. That's awesome that you're able to do that. And where did you say you were, Dr. Jabri? I lost track of that. I know you mentioned it. Possibly different economics, but even still, $600 a month and then the living expenses is not a lot by U.S. station. Kingdom of Bahrain. Very good. All right. So going back to this database story, because I didn't finish it, they had all their logs. It turns out even though they'd been live for 2 years, they had kept all their logs. And they had 2 years of log files. And the actual decision of how to get the service back live was to wipe out everything, which had already kind of been done, but clean it completely out, and use the vast power of AWS to replay all the logs from 2 years in about 48 hours. And so it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen. In Amazon Web Services, we have lots of principal engineers, the highest level of our engineers. And they work as a special team when something is down. So we basically reached out to some of the database principal engineers and some of the EC2 guys who owned kind of our reserve fleet of really beefy machines. And they set up a big parallel job to replay instances, to replay logs into the service. And in 48 hours, they replayed 2 years of log data. The 4 billion lines was basically the majority of this database. And so they just replayed the logs. And what I learned from that was, oh my God, the hidden power of having a cloud computing solution and having the ability to pull on the excess capacity when you're in trouble. They just basically, engineers like myself, and I'm sure there's a lot of computer scientists here watching this stream, we love what's called the elegant solution, the clever algorithm, the fancy way to fix things. This was pure brute force. They just took a look at it and said, we could think about this and try and figure out why the restore is not working, or we could just brute force it, make a big parallel supercomputer and cram it through. And so that was fun to see happen. All right, I've been off topic. I'm going to go back to urgent versus important here. So let's roll to the next question because it's a good one. How do you think about urgent versus important in your personal life? This is tough. And I appreciate you folks will want to put in more questions because there's only a couple left that have only one vote. And so go into the question widget and upvote some stuff or add new. How do you think about urgent versus important in personal life? Well, let's switch back over to that diagram real quick. We'll go back over here. So urgent versus important in personal life. I think it's incredibly critical because there's so much in your personal life that can be urgent but isn't really important. Take the trash out. Mow the lawn. If you haven't heard my rant before, I hate mowing the lawn. And of course, it's a loaded question, right? Chalupa. I agree with that. My answer to that would be to read Atomic Habits by James Clear. I know about something called The Leader Habit by Martin Lanik, which I understand is somewhat similar. I've heard a lot of good things about Atomic Habits. Regardless, you can get bogged down in your life doing all sorts of nitty-gritty small things, and they can squeeze out the few things you'll remember. Jeff Bezos has a saying here. He uses something called the no regret framework. And the no regret framework is basically trying to live your life in a way that when you're old, you'll have no regrets. But I will step away and bring back my artifact for how I think of urgent versus important in personal life, and I'll tell the story of it. So give me one sec. All right, so I'm going to switch cameras real quick, and then we'll talk more about this. Hang on. Go back to one camera. So this is a jar full of marbles. And if you look, you will see mostly white marbles and a few black marbles. Now, I have several of these jars that have been filled up over the years. And the way I do this, urgent versus important, is I have a forcing function to measure myself, to give myself feedback on how I have done. Years ago, I read a story about a guy who wanted to live his life better, and he was older, and he thought he had about 20 years to live. So he got a jar that could hold 1,000 marbles. And he got a bucket of white marbles and a bucket of black marbles. And at the end of every week, if he had spent that week well, he put a white marble in the jar. And if he felt he'd spent it poorly, he put a black marble in the jar. Well, it's very visual. And so it took me a while to do it, but I started doing that. And so, I don't know, this probably holds 150 marbles, maybe not quite 100. So this particular mug has, I don't know, 2 years worth of marbles in it. Now, I have another one that's bigger that's already full, and I'm working on my third mug of marbles. So I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years. And I should have brought the other mug too. The mug of marbles, the first mug has a lot more black in it. Now, the way I do this, I figure work is work and work is a separate topic. So I only choose to measure my life on weekends. And every weekend, at the end of the weekend on Sunday night, I have a ritual where I either put a white marble in the jar or a black marble in the jar. And that, to me, is a really good way to force myself to think through this question of what is urgent versus what is important. And so that's how I do it. And what I can tell you is over years of doing it, the number of black marbles I put in the jar has gone down and down because I've learned how to change my life. Now, has it been a 5-year process to greatly reduce the number of white marbles? But they went, yes, it has. It has been a 5-year process, and I mean to reduce the number of black marbles. But that 5-year process, I've gone from, my original ratio was one black marble in every 4 weeks, so 1 week a month. And sometimes, because it was 1 week a month, they would come at me fast and furious, and I would have 1, 2, 3 in a row, and I'd be pretty miserable. Because if you go weekend after weekend hating things and thinking like you're wasting your life, it's going to get bad. Meanwhile, if you look at this, it's probably 1 in 10. If you were to look at the jar I'm filling now, it's probably 1 in 15 or 1 in 20. Now, I don't have this illusion that life will always be perfect. So there's always going to be black marbles. As an example, 2 black marbles I've had this year, right? People know this, I think. My mom passed away. So like kind of a bad weekend. Nothing I could do about that. Spending the weekend like, upset about that. It was fine, but it wasn't really what I wanted. Oh, thank you, Dr. Jabri. And then later that year, this summer, we went and spread her ashes as well as my mom, as well as my dad. We had kept his ashes. So that was another, like, it was good in its own way, but like spreading ashes, my dad died many years ago, but we had kept his ashes. Walking around our family farm, spreading my parents' ashes, black marble weekend. Life isn't always going to be like, yup, vacation, skiing, wonderful time with family. There's going to be down parts. But now I want to read some of these comments that went by. I'm going to take a minute and look at them because I saw people. So you have my mechanism. You can use this. You can try it yourself. It basically costs nothing. You could do it with chalk marks on the wall. I love the visualization. Plus, I had these cool mugs from my hockey league that I needed something to do with. All right. Let's see. I noticed that Furoki, who I respect a lot, said, I don't agree with the no regret framework. Would you rather have a happy life and somewhat sad death or a sad life and a happy death? Obviously, I'd rather have a happy life. I think the problem is if you're having regrets, you're probably having an unhappy life through a lot of the time of your life because you're piling up regrets. Yeah, is it too much to ask for both? Anyway, T Weirdo sometimes gives me half a black marble. That's true. No, it's not. All right. So I think I've answered this. We're going on to the next question. I hope that works for you, though. If any of you adopt the marble jar, let me know how it goes. So the next question is, what is the time required to be a successful L8 and then get to L10 if you get the boxes right? This probably means nothing to most people, so I will translate it as best I can to English. What this says is how long do you need to be an Amazon director in order to become an Amazon vice president? So since that isn't exactly the topic, I will answer it super succinctly to say the fastest I've seen it done is 3 years, and the longest I've seen it done is 9 years, and I've seen cases of both. And so whoever asked the question, if you want to join our Discord and ask me more about it one-on-one, or since you must be at Amazon, if you want to come ask me in person, feel free. But I'm not going to kill sort of stream time on that. So we have a few more questions. They all have a single vote, yet there are 55 of you here. So I'm going to buy time for anybody who wants to vote up and choose what we answer next. Meanwhile, it's time for the question of the day. And for those of you who don't know how question of the day works, for 12 weeks now, this is week 13, we've been going through the questions. XX Lassie says the questions for my link are old. I don't know. We're having a little trouble with going to the website link, but absolutely the extension is working fine in Twitch. Yeah, T Weirdo has this right. Do a refresh, actually. If you hit refresh, it usually fixes it. Okay, question of the day. So we've been tracking through Arthur Aaron's relationship building questions, and he has 36 questions that go from extremely general to very personal. And as you go down that journey, they become more and more personal, building a relationship, which is what we're doing here on this channel. And today we're 1/3 of the way through. We're starting the middle third, which is question number 13. And I like this one. So the way this works is I answer the question, but everybody in chat has to answer the question. And the question today is, if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know? Everything is not a valid answer. You have to say one thing you want to know. So, repeating the question, if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know? And I'm waiting to see chat start scrolling here with the interesting answers. Meanwhile, I will give you my answer. Yeah, Furrow I'm glad you like it. Duke of Thought. It's interesting that you would say nothing because knowing is pointless. So you just think about nothing then? Rex, I think you meant this is hard. We won't go into the gutter with what you actually wrote. Think Banhammer. How to support my wife better. Wow, you're getting like the gold star for thoughtfulness in this chat. Vicalore, I was expecting a bunch of people would say ways to make money, billion-dollar lottery winner. That'd be great. I want to know my purpose so I can focus on that. That's a great answer. I'd want to know what one thing am I better at doing than the largest number of other people. Very practical. Where I will actually be in 5 years, professionally mostly. It would easy to make plans. It's easy to make plans, but I still wonder. Black Belt Man, that's close to my answer. I will give mine in a second. Chalupa Whale, I would like to know whether I ever meet the woman of my dreams or I should start panicking now. Well, if you knew you never met the woman of your dreams, I guess you wouldn't need to panic, right? I'd like to know what is the max I can reach with the potential I have. Mullet Boy 3000, thank you for answering. That's awesome. And I agree with that. That would be good. Am I being genuine to my values? Wow. Paintbrush Hero going deep. Not surprisingly, our background artist with the strong answer. I'd like to know the ultimate fate of the human race. Ooh, me too. That's close to my answer, actually. Bojack, how long before humanity comes in contact with aliens? Will my SO and I be together in 2 years? Will we ever reach world peace? Am I proud of what I do? These are awesome. You guys are killing it. This is the best set of chat answers we've ever had to one of these questions. So you can give yourself a pat on the back and sub to the channel. No, just do the one. How many people's lives will I impact positively? The Rex, awesome answer. T Weirdo, will I live long enough to see my kids happy and fulfilled? Ooh, Pink Dragons, how many grandkids will I get to meet? Interesting. That would be dangerous knowledge. And I'll talk about my version here in a sec. Will I ever become the best version of myself? I like the lottery comment. I was immediately going deep with thoughts of the afterlife. Kristen, that's very close to my answer. I would like to know about the nature of God. And I guess that includes the idea that there might not be a God, but I would like to know about the nature of God. So that would be, if the crystal ball is going to tell me one thing, I want to know that. If I have to simplify it, I would go down to just, is there a God? Because it would be great to have absolute certainty rather than only faith. And if I couldn't know that, I'd want to know how long I'm going to live. Because if I knew how long I was going to live, man, could I take risks until that day. Because until that day, I'm immortal. And after that day, I'm dead anyway. So, like, suddenly, I'm going to, if I truly believe this crystal ball, which is a good question, like, naked skydiving over a pit of sharks from 3 miles up, somehow I'm going to live. It's amazing. We just buffered. That's weird. Let's see if that comes back. All right, we had a hiccup in the stream. I'm not sure what that was about. We'll go back to questions in a second, but you guys are killing it on this. Best answers ever. Am I proud of what I will do? What is the question again? Okay, Dr. Jabbery, the question is, if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know? Let's see. So we're almost through everybody's answers. Are aliens real? How can I come into contact? Chocolate chip. Wait, the question could be about anything? Sure, Furoki. It's if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else. So, yeah, anything. Duke of Thought, the solution to the Riemann hypothesis would be a good one. All right, so you got to come back, Duke of Thought, with what is that? I think I've heard of it, but I don't know as I could call it out. You also have to say what your background is now. Liger Box, our doctor from Singapore, have people who lose their ambition as they grow older and slow down figured out that I haven't, or do they just figured out something I haven't, or do they just run out of energy? As best I can tell, they run out of energy. Moonosaurus Rex, will I be financially stable? Black belt, where will the human race be? Healthful. If I will ever unlock my full potential and how I would utilize it. Wow. These are the best answers we've ever had to one of these questions. Usually fewer people answer and they're not nearly as deep. Maybe I need to do like a whole stream on this crystal ball because clearly you're engaged. I would probably spend like hours trying to figure out if you could create a question to improve humankind the most. Well, Furoki, I guess there's like a way to do that. Like, how do I end poverty? You might have to add some caveats if it's like a crystal ball that operates like a genie, because its answer might be like exterminate humanity or something. But yeah, there's powerful questions. Webcraft is asking essentially my question about God, which is, were we truly created? At least that's how I interpret it. It's not my job to tell you what your question meant. Kayla C, I guess mine would be seeing how much failure I'd go through to get to the point of success, and it doesn't need to tell me how to get there, but how long. I will want to know the best question I could have asked the crystal ball. Well, that would suck, wouldn't it? The best question you could have asked is something else. Okay, yeah, we froze for a little bit. Yeah. Okay, what else we got? You guys have killed this. I think I should move on, but this is like the longest and best answers we've ever had. And I'm really thrilled, by the way. We have a great community here. I'm honestly thrilled how many of you were asking questions about the good of humanity. That's fantastic. There are a few of you now, like, think humanity's doomed. But Duke of Thought says, okay, I graduated university recently with a degree in chemical engineering and physics. Strong combo. So what's the Riemann hypothesis? I need to know. I guess I could Google it, but I'm busy streaming. Are there any tips for saying no to proposals for seemingly pointless meetings? Yeah, I'm not sure why the stream is lagging. It keeps happening. Let's see. 40 Pink Dragons, can you take a look into household bandwidth use for me real quick? Could be it's the machine, but I doubt it. Because we're having some sort of problem. So, let's see. Tips for saying no to proposals for seemingly pointless meetings. Yes. Ask for an agenda. There's a bunch of things you can do, and we could do a whole show on how to have effective meetings. We'll talk about how to improve the meetings and how to say no. There's a lot of ways to say no. Some of them are truthful, some of them are lies. You can ask, is there any way somebody can send notes to this for me? Send notes on this for me. Or could I call in while I work from my desk? Or lots of different ways. It says it's lagging and frozen on your desktop, not on your phone. Yeah. Thank you all for the feedback. I'm not quite sure why we're getting the lag, but we're checking into it here on this side. And otherwise, I'm glad you can hear me, because while looking at me is beautiful, you don't need to see me every second. So, you can basically try to find ways to avoid the meeting. You can try to ask if you need to be there. You can also cop out and say you have a conflict, you have a doctor's appointment, etc. The key there, if you haven't read the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Work Week talks about a lot of ways to work remotely effectively. And I will tell you as a boss why I will let you out of meetings. If you are able to promise me better results and show me better performance because I keep you out of time wasting meetings, I will do that. I will stop asking you to come as long as your productivity goes up. Because in the end, I'm paying you to be productive, not paying you to come to meetings. So the key you have to show me is that you can be more productive. And as long as you do that, if you want to read about this whole thing, read about it in the 4-Hour Work Week as a book. It's on my list. If you scroll down, if you're on the web, it should be on my book list. I can probably pull it up over here again. Let's see. So if you haven't read the 4-Hour Work Week, it will tell you all about how to demonstrate productivity so that you don't have to do things at work you don't want to. And I'm telling you as a leader, I'll buy into that. If you give me more results through an alternative method, I will absolutely let you do that. Did I not put this on here? I'm going to be really sad. All right. It's not on my book list. I'm a big fat liar. Sorry about that. I don't always recommend it because some of the advice the author gives is a little bit sleazy, in my opinion. He recommends a lot of things that are borderline dishonest, and I like to stay away from dishonesty because I don't think you have to be dishonest. But let's see. So we'll bring it up this way. Come on. All right. This is going to be really funny. I'm going to flip over to the other screen, and you'll see how much I believe in this book. You purchased this 3 times. You purchased this item on March 27th, 2010, but apparently I've bought other people copies of it. So the 4-Hour Work Week, escape the 9 to 5, live anywhere, and join the new rich. Who wouldn't want to do that? The 4-Hour Work Week will tell you how to be productive. Someone says, any examples? Wow. I'm wondering if there's something going on at Twitch because my stream has never lagged like this in the past. I will check machine performance while we talk, but that should not be happening. So let me just switch back over, take a quick second, see if something's going on here. La 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 la. Streamlabs is definitely sucking up a lot of CPU and going red, but I think killing it won't help. So there's definitely Streamlabs is choking on something, but I don't know what it is. And we're almost done with the stream, so I think we're just going to weather it for the moment. Sorry about the freezing, though. All right, so ways to say no. The best way to say no is be productive and be asked to be let out of the meetings or fix the meetings. Ask for an agenda, ask for a purpose, ask for them to be shortened. There's a whole thing on how to make better meetings, but basically those are your tools. All right, couple more questions, and since we're having stream problems, we'll wind it up. How much of an executive's time is dealing with the incoming fire? Do you get to be creative and push forward, or are you always trying to catch up? Wow, this is killing me. What's wrong with Streamlabs right now? That's a real pain. How much of an executive's time is dealing with incoming fire? Do you always get to be creative and push forward? No, I am always trying to catch up. I work a lot longer than 40 hours a week. Most of that work is on things that are urgent, not important. If you were here earlier in the stream, I talked about the need to my need to fight things like incoming email. I get 100 to 300 emails a day, plus Slack, plus other incoming messages on other channels plus meetings. So I don't think perpetual white belt, your internet is just trash today. Everyone is having the problem. And I'm thinking it's a problem with Streamlabs here on my end. Yes, Dr. Jabri, my book list is ordered by favorite books onward normally. And it might be Twitch is having issues also. I won't know that until I get off stream and look at Twitch's error log. But it's possible. All right. How much of an example? So I feel like my time is sucked up by junk work also. And I actually try and do most of my thinking outside of work hours, because I did a show with Devin once. You can go find it with Devin Nash on his channel, where I shared my weekly calendar. And my weekly calendar, if you look at it, showed that basically every hour of my day is booked with some kind of meeting. So sometimes those meetings, I get to do the creative, strategic thinking in the meetings, but a lot of them are status meetings, interviews, updates, one-on-ones. In one-on-ones, at least I get to coach people. But a lot of the time, if I want to carve off time, I have to do it myself, and I have to make free time to do that or do it nights and weekends. The key, I would say, is it doesn't take that much thinking time. Focus on the important. Leet Hephaestus, if he's still here, said this already. And yes, you're allowed to have Amazon affiliate links. Yeah, and me as an Amazonian, I'm still allowed to have an Amazon affiliate link for a bunch of reasons. But none of them are weird, particularly since I'm donating all the proceeds. But basically, Amazon loves anybody to sell more Amazon, and that includes me. So there's no issue there. Anyway, you don't need a lot of thinking time. Leet Hephaestus said it surprises him if he does the right things, how little he has to do to be effective and productive. You only need a couple hours a day. And I'll just ask people who are here in chat, because now I know you all respond to chat when I ask. How many of you get even 1 hour a day to actually sit back and think about what you should be doing and then do that most important thing? And I'll bet many of you answer that on most days you're firefighting the whole day, or you're busy with busy work the whole day. And that will kill you. So another book I recommend is called Eat That Frog. And Eat That Frog is basically about do the most important thing. Hey, Shadow. Welcome in. Eat That Frog is about do the most important thing first in the day. And I've talked before about try to earn your pay before noon. Try to do the one thing you can early in the morning so that you feel like you've earned your day out early, and then you'll feel good all day. It's all about finding that 1 hour to do the most important thing. So that each day you do at least one important thing. I'm going to switch back over to this diagram we were showing real quick. So that's my book list. Where'd it go? Come on. Let's go back. So on this matrix, you don't have to spend very much time doing the most important work for it to be very life impacting. And so that would be my point, is it doesn't have to be all day or all the time. It's get a little bit of it done every day, and that will make a huge difference. All right, cool. We got one more question, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. We'll talk about my next show will be Wednesday at 8 p.m., where I'll be catching up with an executive from my old Bangalore office. He now lives in Pune, India, Mugendra, and we can ask him how many personal servants he has in his household and what he pays them. Because it's fun to ask people invasive personal questions live with an audience. Why not? We'll see if he answers honestly. Okay, last question. Do you actually use the diagram in real life? I didn't give me any information to reprioritize, still end up being as efficient. Yes. Do I use the diagram in real life all the time? I guess I'd say I don't. What do I want to say about that? I don't have the urgent versus important diagram up all the time. But I do have the the urgent versus important concept in my head because I've known it for 20 years. And so I do think that thinking about that is effective. And if we go to the diagram I had, you can learn to do this stuff. You can learn to ask yourself, this thing I'm about to do, or look at your schedule for tomorrow. If your calendar is on your phone, do this simple exercise. Pull up your phone right now if you have a calendar on it and start looking at it and saying, okay, of all the stuff I'm going to do tomorrow, where does it fit? So I will do this. I will live by my words right now. And there might be some stuff on here I won't talk about. I don't know. All right. So this is actually fun. I absolutely want to talk about this. The first thing I'm doing tomorrow morning is at 8:50 a.m. I'm meeting with Shivang Gandotra. Shivang came on this channel. He was one of the first people to ever come on the channel. And he was coached live on stream for an hour. And we did a 1-hour coaching session with him, after which he joined the channel staff. And he does all of our publishing to podcasts. So Shivang is invaluable to me. He just interviewed, better not say too much, he just interviewed somewhere. And I'm going to get a chance to meet with him tomorrow and talk to him. But the key is, I think that's investing in a relationship. So that falls under the focus block here on the chart. And I'm relationship building with someone who's part of our success in our community here. So yes, check, winner. All right, that's in the green. What do I have next? The next thing I have is weekly product review with the Twitch Prime team. So that one falls into, let's see, that's basically managing what we're going to ship. So that falls into preparation and planning for our product. Are we driving it forward? Yeah, Furrow Key, good call, right? So that falls into preparation and planning. Yes, check. The next thing I have is 30 minutes free. Thank God. The next thing I have is a review meeting for a document. Yeah, not sounding good, right? A review meeting for a document where we're trying to plan our strategy for next year. So this is both good and bad. It's a required project and assignment, so that would make it essential. But this is like our 5th meeting on trying to get it exactly right, and it's driving me crazy. So I would honestly say this one, I'm trying desperately to quick fix or delegate it at this point because we've worked on it so long. Okay. Then I have lunch. Yay. Business review of our business results for the week. Bojack, yes. There are days, if you go see my schedule, when I did my schedule review with Devin, there are days where I don't have a restroom break through the day and I have to step out. It is an occupational hazard of my job, which is both working as an executive and working as at a large company. They both tend to make your life into a time suck. Duke of Thought, the meetings do metastasize like cancer. That is completely true. Orbital, chat will fill you in. Welcome in, though. The mods and the rest of the chat community will tell you all about it, but we're glad to have you here. Basically, we're career development. It's been said that my job is to help Twitch viewers speed run their careers. All right, and Bojack, you're not wrong, actually. Okay, the next thing I have is a review of a roadmap for one of my teams. So that's planning and preparation again. That works. The next thing is a meeting with my EA to plan my calendar. That one sucks. She's a great EA, but the fact that I need a meeting to plan my plans and plan my meetings is not what I would call good. I'd like to get out of that. And then the last one is a one-on-one with a new leader I brought on board. So that's like teaching somebody to lead. And that one falls under increasing my capacity so that he can take over work I do now. The point I've made, though, be ruthless with your schedule and bump it up against this matrix. And so I see really good people in here. Roy T.Y. Kim is somebody I just met and got to talk to more. He can do this. He's in school, but he has a bunch of out-of-school activities. He's working hard to get out of his after-school job, which is slinging Thai food. He'd rather do something that better advances his career. So he's thinking about how to get out of that because it adds money to his life, but it's not value added to any other part of his career. Let's see. What else? I think we've covered everything here in questions. It's been a great talk. We're an hour and a half in. So basically what remains is for me to say, please come back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. This Wednesday at 8 p.m., 48 hours from now, more or less. And I'll be hosting Mugindra on the show. He's an executive working at a startup in India. And we'll be following up with him after 6 weeks to see how he's doing, continuing his coaching. Second, please, I love everyone who's come in. I'm planning my next collaboration with Devin. I know a lot of you come from Devin's stream. We're probably going to try and do live interviewing on his streams. We did resume review. We're going to let people call in over Discord. And if you're brave, we'll put you on air. We'll ask you a question and critique your answer. We might even let you be anonymous, but probably not. What fun would that be? And Rex, I didn't thank you, by the way, for the 100 bits. Way to claim the cheap #1 cheering badge. Well done. The thing I would ask in the community, though, if you enjoy what we did and you got a lot out of this, please follow us on YouTube. And if your friends couldn't be here, or if you have professionals in your office or other environment who can benefit from what we do and what we share and talk about, please forward some of the videos off of YouTube or point them to our show. And I ask that because we grow through your referrals. Now, why do I care about growth? Because I work at Amazon. I'm not actually building this channel to make a living directly from the channel. I'm doing it because I want to reach as many people as I can and help them. And so, for example, we were talking about Shivang, who's interviewed. We've actually helped on this channel a bunch of people get jobs. We've also helped a bunch of people improve their resume, and they can testify here. Some of them are here. That's what I want to do. I want to help you be more successful, and I want to help others be more successful. So the more people we have, the more we can do that, and the more fun we have when we do things like the crystal ball question. So with that, I've had a great time tonight. I hope you have. I had the most fun ever with the crystal ball question. I loved answering a bunch of you on your questions about urgent versus important. The bottom line takeaway there is say no to bullshit. Even if you piss people off, say no to bullshit. Do what's important in your life. You can say it's no regrets. You can say it's some other framework. It may be painful to say no. It might get you fired, but that will get you a better job somewhere else. Get better at either avoiding or saying no to things that are wasting your time. And the hardest person to say no to is yourself. It's very easy if we go back to this diagram. Look at the worst category here, right? It's the stuff in procrastination. It's goofing off, wasting time, passing time, surfing the internet, Facebook, social media. Oh, playing games is in here. It's totally fine, obviously. We're a gaming site to play games some, but not when it's keeping you from doing what's most important, not when it's keeping you from family, advancing yourself, whatever it is you need to get done. Play games in your spare time. All right. So, takes a brave guy to get on Twitch and say playing games is a type of procrastination and you shouldn't do too much of it. But what the hell, that's me. It's been fun, everybody. Thank you for a great night. See you in 48 hours to talk to Mugendra. And then I'm going rock climbing. We often grab the item of the week. The item of this week is a cam. It's time to go rock climbing. So I'm going to be away down at Red Rocks in Las Vegas, doing some climbs there. All right. Last question is Dr. Jabri. Is there any way you can review a resume on Discord, etc., or does it have to be during the stream? If you want to send it to me in Discord, I do not promise to look at it, and you have to be patient, but I'm happy to take a quick glance. I would say please don't send it to me till you watch some, at least, of the 4-hour video Devin and I did on his channel, Devin Nash, as well as probably on his YouTube. Don't send me something with the mistakes we already talked about. Yep, thank you. I see you say will do. But I'm always happy to give people a second glance after that. With that, I'm going to sign off. Cheers, everyone. It's dinner time here. See you in 2 days on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Pacific. And I'll see you back soon. Thanks so much. Good night. Hi, I'm Ethan Evans. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this show. To follow us on YouTube, please click the bell icon in the bottom left and subscribe. Also, you can find us live on Twitch, where we answer questions interactively. Further, we have a Discord community, where not only I, but other members of the community team up to answer your questions interactively. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you.